Greetings, heroes. Mr. Evans here with your instructional video for the Unit 8, Lesson 8 portfolio assignment. Be aware that the discussion assignment in Unit 8, Lesson 8 has been dropped and replaced with this, which is our second portfolio assignment for the fall semester. If you click through the lesson and you click to the last window, you will see the portfolio assignment with a link to it. We're going to start off by going over the lesson introduction page on Unit 8, Lesson 8, so I can show you what's there, because you will need to refer to this to complete the assignment. Not everything you need to look at is on the assignment worksheet. You're going to have to refer back to the lesson introduction page to complete it. So I'm going to show you what's on here first, and then I will go over what you need to refer back to when we start working on the actual portfolio assignment. So it just tells you what's going on here. On November 20th, we'll be going over this live in the live lesson. If you want to wait to do this until that day, feel free to do so. If it's after November 20th, then I will post that recording here on the live lesson page as well. If it's after November 20th, it should already be there. So if you want to skip and come back to this after the live lesson on the 20th of November, that's fine. It says the discussion assignment has been replaced with the portfolio. This is the next chapter in the Battle of Luminaria storyline. You can read that. If you're not into that, you can just scroll past it. So down here, I'm just going to tell you what the resources are, and then I'll show you how to use them in a minute. This is a link, a direct link to the portfolio worksheet, Royal Commission. Okay, that will open up that, but we're going to go back to the lesson introduction page. I'm going to show you what's here. This is a YouTube video from the Amoeba Sisters that shows you how to read a codon chart. It does go over that in your actual lessons, but you're going to need to know how to do that, and this video explains how to do that, so you can watch that if you want. This is a table that shows abbreviations for amino acids. Every amino acid has a letter that serves as its abbreviation along with its codon sequence. Okay, that will make more sense when we go over the codon chart in a little bit. And then there's a table on the lesson introduction page that shows you the chemical properties of each amino acid. This is the amino acid symbol, and it tells you whether it's nonpolar, polar uncharged, aromatic, positively charged, negatively charged. These are all chemical properties, and there are descriptions of the chemical properties as well. You'll need to refer back to this table. And then there's another link to the portfolio down here just to make your life easier. But you will need, I'm telling you again, you need to be able to come back and refer to these tables. So when you're working on the worksheet, have this open on one tab, this lesson introduction page, and the worksheet in another tab. If you click the link, it should just open up another tab and take you to the worksheet, so you can have both tabs open. So that being said, that's what's on the lesson introduction page. Now let's actually go over the worksheet itself. So here we are on the actual worksheet. The Royal Commission, the Empress of Luminaria, has charged us to investigate the GALT mutation. So, there is some story flavor flair on this worksheet, but, again, all the science on here is real life stuff, so I'm not making up anything magical for your portfolio assignment. I'm just giving it some story flair for entertainment's sake. So the Empress has charged us with investigating the GALT gene. So here's our commission task. You can read all this stuff for some background information on what the GALT gene and what galactosemia is. Galactosemia is a genetic disorder that prevents the body from breaking down galactose, and it's caused by a mutation in the DNA. So here is what we're going to do. You can fill this out right here on the web page, just like you could for the Dragon Genetics one. You can just fill in your answers right here in these boxes. So, put answer here. These are all form fillable boxes. So this first part is like a flow chart. So what happens with the gene? Let's say there's a mutation in the gene. That's the cause. What's the effect? So what happens to the protein that is built from a mutated gene? If there's a mutation, then the protein's going to be built wrong. It's going to be built incorrectly. If you remember your lessons from the translation, the lessons on translation, on how RNA is translated into proteins, you'll know that if the amino acid if the codon sequence is wrong or incorrect, that means improper amino acids will be put into the protein chain. So what happens with the protein? It is built wrong. It is folded wrong. It might be structurally different than the normal protein, what it's supposed to be like. So you will put that in the box. And then you will say, what happens in the cells? What happens in a cell that has a bad protein? And then what happens to the person if their cells are using that bad protein? You need to fill in these answers in this flow chart. Okay, so the next part you can read, why do some mutations cause galactosemia and others do not? And right here we're looking at a codon chart. You might remember a similar version of this from your lessons. A codon chart is how you translate what the codon sequence is. A codon is a three-letter nucleotide sequence. Remember ATCG? It's a three-letter sequence that codes for a specific amino acid. And you decipher the sequence by looking at this chart. And we'll go over a couple of these ourselves, but again, if you need more help, you can watch that Amoeba Sisters video on the lesson introduction page. They go over it pretty good. So now we have some examples of mutations here. And don't worry about like where it says position 184 or position 404. That part's not really important. Just know that that's like where in the sequence of the gene the mutation's happening. It's not important for this, but that's just for your own knowledge. But like here's the example of the mutation that's happening. So let's say that C, cytosine, is replaced with A, adenine, in the codon. So if we had something, a codon sequence that was CTG, that means it's now ATG. So let's go up here to the codon chart. And remember that RNA uses U instead of T. T, thymine, is in DNA. So the DNA code is going to have T in it. But for all intents and purposes, in RNA, you're just going to replace the T with U. Now, I know that seems extra complicated, but I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. So let's find out what CTG makes. So you start here, you find your first letter C. Okay? Now remember, we're using U instead of T for this particular one. So we're going to go to U up here. Second letter. We find the corresponding box. And then over here, G. And where do all of these things intersect? C, U, G. They all intersect in this box. And as you can see, that codon makes leucine. And if we go back to the lesson introduction page, CTG, we find that gene, that sequence codes for leucine, which is L. You're going to find on this box. You can also look that up if you want. There are plenty of like tables and charts that show you all the abbreviations for the amino acids. That's pretty available. You can Google it and find something else if you want to use something else. Same thing with the chart, the codon chart. I'm just giving you one here to make it easy. So that's leucine, so that's showing right here. It starts at leucine, but if it changes, if we mutate it and now it's ATG, let's go up here and see what it is now. A, and remember up here, we had to change T to U, U, G. And where do they all intersect? So now that sequence, that codon sequence, is coding for methionine. So it's going from leucine to methionine. And if we go back to the chart, find the abbreviation, right there, it's M. You're going to need these when you actually have to fill these in. So what's the effect? How do we know what is the effect of that amino acid change? Well, we go down here to our next chart, which is the properties of amino acids. So we find L right here. It was leucine, and now it's methionine. These are both non-polar amino acids. So it's going from one non-polar amino acid to another non-polar amino acid. So you can type here in the box one non-polar amino acid changed with another. Now, generally speaking, if an amino acid with the same chemical properties is substituted out by a mutation, it's generally not going to have any kind of significant effect. It'll still work. So the answer for this mutation causes galactosemia is no, because it's a similar amino acid that's being replaced in the mutation. You'll notice that all of these are, the yes-nos are pre-filled for you. So that's kind of a clue that when you fill in the rest of these, by looking up the amino acids that are coded for, filling in the abbreviation, if it says yes, that's kind of a clue for you that the chemical properties of the amino acids used should be different. Okay? So you're going to do that, and you're going to fill in all of these. Also, for me, if you're hearing this and you remember, you can stretch these boxes down. So if you write a lot of stuff, stretch the boxes down so I can see your full answer. It just makes it easier for me. You can stretch these boxes by grabbing the corner and just kind of dragging them down. So make sure I can see your whole answer, because when you save this file, if you don't make the box big enough, it's going to cut them off and I can't see them. Okay, but anywho, fill in all those. Then you're going to answer these questions. What do the mutations that cause galactosemia have in common? You're going to look back at your answers here and say what, and find the ones that say yes, yes, this one causes it, yes, this one causes it, yes, this one causes it, and you're going to see what they all have in common. Look at the ones that don't result in galactosemia. How are they similar? How are they different? Explain why only certain mutations in GALT cause galactosemia. You're going to answer these 3 questions. Okay, so on this next part, investigation part 2, this one's a little bit shorter and easier. You can read through the flair stuff, but read this. I know it's got the fantasy flair in it, but if you're not into that, read it anyways, and just pick out the actual important parts. So to detect galactosemia, the healers must measure 2 vital signs within the blood: the activity of the GALT protein, which breaks down galactose, and the level of galactose itself. So there have been 3 patients, and blood tests have been taken from those 3 patients, and the royal healers have measured the level of the GALT protein in the patient's blood and their galactose level in their blood. And you also have the normal range right here to give you like what's considered the normal range of these things in a standard human range. So in patient 1, we can see that the GALT protein activity is 20.2. That's in the normal range. And the galactose level is 2.1, which is also in the normal range. Now look at the other 2 patients. Which of these is off? Which of these patients is not in the normal range? And what do you think that means? So based on these, you can answer your questions here. Okay, I have also linked directly in the worksheet 2 videos from the Khan Academy explaining mutations and explaining genes, proteins, and traits. These are a little bit longer, but you can watch them if you need some additional background and content information. But you could probably complete this activity without watching the Khan Academy videos. But again, the most important thing to remember, fill in everything. Everything that has a purple box, you need to fill it in. If there's a purple box, you have to type something into it. You will need to refer back to the lesson introduction page for this abbreviation chart and this chemical property chart for each amino acid. You'll need to do that. Okay, now when you are all done with this and you've got all of your stuff filled in, you're going to come to the bottom of the page and you're going to click Save as PDF. And that will open up your little printer window that pops up when you want to print something. Now, normally, a lot of times this dropdown might be populated by your printer window. Or if you don't have a printer window, it won't. But what you need to do is make sure that this dropdown is set to Save as PDF. And then when you have it set to Save as PDF, hit Save, And that is going to open up the a window where you can save the assignment. It'll open up like the window to like your downloads folder, or maybe to your desktop. I don't know where it's set different for everyone, but it opens up a window where you can save the file and type in a name. Name the file something like Unit 8 portfolio with your name on it. Save it with your name on it so that it's easier for me to like distinguish that way. So save it with like Unit 8 portfolio in your name. You save the file. That will save it as a PDF file, and then you upload that file. And that's what you put in the Dropbox, that file. That's all you need. If you have an Academy of Heroes account, you can also upload that same file to the Special Missions, just like we did for the Dragon Genetics one. This portfolio is also under Special Missions on Academy of Heroes. If you want the golden experience for that, you can upload the same file to Special Missions as well. If you're not doing Academy of Heroes, if you don't have an account, you don't need to worry about that part. You just have to upload it to the Dropbox. So, all right, that is your instructions for the Unit 8 portfolio assignment. We will be going over it again in live lesson. I'll be posting that when it's ready. And here's the other thing. If you're totally lost and you don't know what to do your best. Answer what you can. I will see it. I will grade it. I will give you some feedback on how to fix it, and then you can go back and do it again. Don't just, crash out and get stuck because you have no idea what to do. If you know how to do part of it, do that part of it. And fill that in and turn it in. You have time to redo it again, and I'll give you feedback, and I'll tell you what's wrong, and then you can fix it, and then you can redo it. Watch the videos a couple of times. Go through it as the video is playing. All of the resources that you have, you can watch as many times as you want. And it's still at the end, if you only kind of partially understand, turn in what you know. You can redo it again. You can add to it. All right. That's it. Everyone have a good rest of your day.